So today's scripture reading, I decided I would do it myself. Not that I don't think there's several of you who are quite capable, even more capable, but it is a little longer. I know how that sometimes intimidates folks, and it's got a lot of names of places. A lot of those ites, in it. So, but from the book of Ruth, the Old Testament book of Ruth, which I had to go look up again. Where is Ruth in the Old Testament? And it's right after the book of Judges. We're going to read from the first chapter, the story of Ruth. During the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man with his wife and 2 sons went from Bethlehem of Judah to dwell in the territory of Moab. The name of that man was Elimelech. The name of his wife was Naomi. And the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They entered the territory of Moab and settled there. But Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died. Then only she was left, along with her 2 sons. They took wives for themselves, Moabite women. The name of the first was Orpah, and the name of the second was Ruth. And they lived there for about 10 years. But both of the sons, Mahlon and Chilion, also died. Only the woman was left without her 2 children and without her husband. Then Naomi arose along with her daughter-in-laws to return from the field of Moab, because while in the territory of Moab she had heard that the Lord had paid attention to his people by providing food for them. So Naomi left the place where she had been, and her 2 daughters-in-law went with her. They went along the road to return to the land of Judah. Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Go back, turn back, each of you, to the household of your mother. May the Lord deal faithfully with you, just as you have done with the dead and with me. May the Lord provide for you so that you may find security, each woman in the household of her husband." Then she kissed her 2 daughter-in-laws, and they lifted up their voices, and they wept. But they replied to Naomi, No, instead we'll return with you to your people. And Naomi replied, "Turn back, my daughters. Why would you go with me? Will there again be sons in my womb that they would be husbands for you? Turn back, my daughters. Go. I am too old for a husband. If I were to say that I have hope, even if I had a husband tonight, and even more if I were to bear sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you refrain from having a husband? No, my daughters. This is more bitter for me than for you, since the Lord's will has come out against me." Then the 2 daughter-in-laws lifted up their voices and wept again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth stayed with her mother-in-law. Naomi said, "Look, your sister-in-law is returning to her people and to her gods. Ruth, turn back after your sister-in-law." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to abandon you, to turn back from following after you, for wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do this to me, and more so, if even death separates me from you." When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her about it. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
One of the false assumptions that I believe we human beings often arrogantly make is that of all the creatures God has made and placed upon this earth, that God is only really concerned about us. Somewhere along the line, we seem to have gotten the idea that all the rest of God's handiwork was simply made for our pleasure, our use and consumption. Likewise, we have often assumed that since as human beings we're the highest of all species, that we're the only part of God's creation that's made in God's image. In other words, we're the only creature in God's creative order that reflects the goodness and the graciousness and the truth of God. We often assume that all those millions of other creatures that God fashioned in the days or billions of years of creation before we appeared on the scene, that all those others are just pretty insignificant to God. We also assume often that those other creatures don't have a whole lot to teach us about life. After all, they're just a bunch of dumb animals. Yes, we human beings oftentimes place ourselves smugly at the top of the creation story mountain, forgetting that the very characteristics in ourselves that we consider godly may very well have first appeared and might still more clearly appear at times in species other than our own. Certainly, the divine quality we come to consider this morning, we find being lived out sometimes far better by those standing on 4 legs than those of us standing on 2. Listen to this story. On a monument outside a courthouse in Missouri is recorded one of the most moving statements ever made about the abiding love of a dog. It was made in the 19th century by George Graham Best before he became a senator, when he was legally representing a neighbor whose dog had been killed by another man and who was suing the accused for $200 in damages. By the time Best had finished his summing up, the jury was in no mood to ruminate. It took the jury only 2 minutes to reach a verdict. The plaintiff was awarded $500, but the judge was unable to grant their wish that the dog killer be sent to prison, as the law did not permit such a punishment. But these are the words that Senator Vest spoke. Gentlemen of the jury, the best friend a man has in this world may turn against him and become his enemy. His son and his daughter that he reared with loving care may become ungrateful. Those who are nearest and dearest to us, those whom we trust with our happiness and our good name, may become traitors to their faith. The money that a man has, he may lose. It flies away from him when he may need it the most. Man's reputation may be sacrificed in a moment of ill-considered action, and the people who are prone to fall on their knees and do us honor when success is with us may be the very first to throw the stone of malice when failure settles its cloud upon our head. The only absolute unselfish friend a man may have in this selfish world, the one that never deserts him, the one that never proves ungrateful or treacherous, is his dog. A man's dog stands by him in prosperity and poverty, in health and sickness. He will sleep on the cold ground when the wintry winds blow and the snow drives fiercely. If only he can be near his master's side. He will kiss the hand that has no food to offer. He will lick the wounds and sores that come in encounter with the roughness of the world. He guards the sleep of a pauper as if he were a prince. When all other friends desert, he remains. When riches take wings and reputations fall to pieces, he's as constant in his love as the sun in its journey through the heavens. If fortune drives the master forth an outcast into the world, friendless and homeless, the faithful dog asks no higher privilege than that of accompanying him to guard him against danger, to fight against his enemies. And when the last scene of all comes and death takes his master in its embrace and his body is laid away in the cold ground, no matter if all other friends pursue their way, there by his graveside will be the noble dog he found, his head between his paws, his eyes sad, but open in alert watchfulness, faithful and true, even unto death. Now, whether you're a dog lover or not, one cannot dispute the countless stories of dogs that risked their lives out of loyalty to the human beings to whom they were attached. A raging firestorm devastated the hills above Berkeley in Oakland, California on October 20th, 1991, killing 26 people, destroying 3,000 homes, and leaving 5,000 pets killed or displaced. And Dudley, a 12-year-old ex-stray dog of Virginia Smith, refused to leave her body when she died of smoke inhalation. Rescuers tried to take him with them, but he stood like a statue, rooted to the ground. They tugged and they pulled and they coaxed, but Dudley would not budge. With their lives in danger, they had little time to lose and finally dragged the dog off. His fur singed, his paw pads badly burned. He was rushed to the Berkeley Dog and Cat Hospital, and although he survived, he sank into a deep depression. So much did he miss his friend, Virginia Smith. Loyalty. Loyalty. The Oxford English Dictionary defines it as true to obligations of duty and love. This tender scripture story we come to this morning is a marvelous picture of loyalty in human relationships. Many of you know this story well. A great time of crisis, a famine strikes the land of Israel. And so, doing what he's got to do, Elimelech packs up his family, all their belongings, and they leave their homeland for another place, a place where food can be found. Some of you maybe had that experience of packing up to leave all that's familiar because the job or financial pressures called you somewhere else. You may know exactly what Elimelech and Naomi felt as they were headed down the road, leaving town, going in a direction they'd never, ever gone before. Some of you may know what it's like to even arrive in a foreign country and realize that all these strange surroundings are going to be home for a while. Well, the famine lasted several years, and during that time period that Elimelech and Naomi spent in the foreign land of Moab, a lot happened. Elimelech died. Their two sons, Mahlon and Chilion, both married local Moabite girls, and that was a hard thing. In that time, marrying within your own culture, within your own religion, or your own race was considered imperative. And even today, there continues to be a lot of prejudice against couples who choose to marry someone of a different culture, a different race, a different religion. And then tragedy of all tragedies happened. Naomi's two sons both died, and she was left without a family in a place which was not originally her home. It must be hard to know what to do when your family is all gone and you're not sure where your home really is. It's not like Naomi's at the age where it's easy to start over again either. But Naomi decides to do what a lot of folks seem to do when wiped out by grief and loss. She longs to go back to the closest thing to home that she knows. Yes, she's raised her kids in Moab and certainly had friends there in Moab, but her heart was always in the land of the Hebrews, and she wanted to go back home. So she called her two daughter-in-laws together and she told them of her plans, and they don't want to hear of it. Naomi's become like a mother to them. They can't bear the thought of being separated from her. But Naomi knows in her heart that Orpah and Ruth need to move on with their lives. where they could start over again, and they needed to start over again. So Naomi uses all the persuasive arguments that she can for them to just let her go. And they stay in their own land with their own people. Orpah is persuaded, but Ruth cannot be convinced. As you know, the story goes that Ruth follows Naomi back to Israel to build her life in the presence of her mother-in-law, whom she loves with her whole heart. Most times, when we hear mother-in-law stories, they don't follow this same plot line, do they? In what may be one of the most poetic passages in all of Scripture, declaring the unequivocal loyalty possible in human relationships fashioned after the love of God, Ruth says to Naomi, I'll go where you go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Now, most of us probably associate those words with a wedding ceremony where we've heard them read. Loyalty. True to obligations of duty and love. In a lot of ways, it seems to me we've lost that virtue of loyalty in much of our world. Employers now send jobs overseas or eliminate positions at a whim to build profits without a sense of loyalty to their employees. Likewise, employees often, in turn, find little reason to show commitment to their employers. As consumers, we're not nearly as brand loyal as we once were. Usually, we make decisions upon what we're going to buy based on price, don't we? And people who study churches tell us that denominational loyalty is pretty much a thing of the past. Loyalty to any one church, I'll go where I feel like I can get the most out of it, is what folks often say. Loyalty may in one sense be sort of an outdated concept, an antique character trait. Loyalty might be one of those things that we look at like we're looking at a 1953 Buick. To see it with all its wide, sidewalled, heavy sheet metal, curved contour design, it warms our hearts, doesn't it? And it beckons us back to a simpler time. But come on, it's not a practical way to get us where we want to go in today's streamlined, computerized, aerodynamically efficient world. Loyalty may seem to some like it weighs you down and holds you back. True to obligations of duty and love. Who does that anymore? We live in a get what you can get, go after what you want, look out for number one world. Duty, obligations, loyalty, well that can just get in the way of all that, can it not? Who has time for loyalty? Who has the patience to stick it out through the tough times or the boring times or the risky times or the frustrating times or the unproductive times or the lean times? It seems like loyalty has a hard time making its case in a world where relationships are often considered just another commodity to trade for what we need or want. I'll be faithful to you as long as you're faithful to me. I'll scratch your back if you, scratch my back. That's the deal, okay? Those lines of thought are not exclusive to those who follow only worldly ways either, for that seems often the underlying mindset among those of us who carry our Bibles to church on Sundays and sing in tune, all to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give. The word church for many has come to mean that place I go that gives me what I want. This is why this story of Ruth from Moab and Ruth from Moab and Naomi from Israel is truly out of step with our times. Ruth left all that was familiar and comfortable and secure to go to an unknown land with a woman she called her mother-in-law. Who does that? Why do that? Naomi was old. Naomi was a refugee. And the destination to which they were headed, the land of the Hebrews and the religion of the Hebrews, was not a place always very welcoming to outsiders. Illegal aliens, they called them sometimes. What were you thinking, Ruth? In the late 1700s and early 1800s, there was a German man, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, who was a prolific writer of poetry and prose as well as a statesman. Quotes from his great works have endured through the centuries since, and one of those quotes I like and often relate to is, "We do not have to visit a madhouse to find disordered minds. Our planet is the mental institution of the universe." I love that. And we're all in it, right? But something else, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I should ask our English teacher. Is it Goethe? Do you know?
Goethe.
Goethe, okay. He said this that made me think of Ruth. He said, "You can easily judge the character of a man by how he treats those who can do nothing for him." Did you get that? You can easily judge the character of a man by how he treats those who can do nothing for him. True to obligations of duty and love. You know, I've said before, even though we're almost 8 years into this now here at South Main Chapel and Mercy Center, we're still a cake in the oven. Our shape and our activities of ministry in which we engage are ever developing and changing, and no doubt will continue to change. But whatever we do, my prayer is that God will always help us to be true to obligations of duty and love. And that we may be the kind of people who treat with kindness and hospitality and truthfulness all who come our way. Because that is who God is. God is loyal. God is there all the time, right? Does not turn his back on us. Doesn't let us down. Doesn't give up on us. That's what it means to be loyal. Let's pray. We say a prayer of thanks today, Father, for the evidence of loyalty all around us, even for those of us who will go home today to a furry critter that is showing what it really means to be loyal. Help us to find that sense of duty and obligation to love in our interactions. May we show it to each other here in this place and in other places that our lives take us. May we show it to our family members and our friends, our co-workers, people we meet out on the street. That we would show the kind of commitment and faithfulness that really is the vehicle of your love. The same sort of commitment and faithfulness you show to us time and time and time again. This we all pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.